It is Wednesday, the 22nd of June, 2022. Good evening and welcome to Newswatch on Hope TV, where you look and live. I'm Tess Njenga and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Mureithi. Stay tuned for a discussion on Kenya's debt burden following the move by Senate to approve the National Treasury proposal to raise the debt ceiling to 10 trillion shillings in the course of this bulletin with Reginald Kadzutu, who is the CEO of Amana Capital. I'm Tess Njenga and my sign language interpreter is Boniface Mureithi. Let us begin. Confusion and traffic snarl-up dominated the Green Park Terminus fourth test run, which started Wednesday morning. The test run, which was set to happen in phases till Sunday, was annulled after Nairobi Metropolitan Services ordered matatus back to the city. At the Green Park, commuters who appeared to be confused shared their frustrations, citing inconveniences caused by the exercise. Dolly Murigi now reports.
With less than 6 hours after the Green Park test run started, Nairobi Metropolitan Services ordered matatus back to the city centre. This was after matatu operators and commuters cried foul of traffic snarl-ups, confusion and long queues that marred the test run, which began in the morning hours. NMS had announced earlier that the test run, which was set to happen in phases, will run until Sunday, June 26th. Wednesday test run was only meant for matatus plying Rongai, Kiserian, Gong, Karen, Langata, Nairobi West, Madaraka, Kibra, Kawangware, Dagoretti Satellite, Kilimani, High Rise, Gumo and Kikuyu routes. However, before noon matatus were back to the CBD stages along railways, Agro House, Kencom, among others. Matatu Owners Association Chairman Simon Kimutai criticized the test run, stating the terminal itself was already a failure. According to the matatu operators, the test run had challenges which affected them directly and interfered with the daily seamless operation they are used to. The operators decried that once they dropped off commuters in the morning, there were no passengers within the terminus to be transported back, hence leaving empty. Despite the challenges at the Green Park terminus, matatu operators say the fare remained the same. Commuters had earlier said they were ambushed by the test run, not knowing such an exercise was going to take place. Many were forced to track to CBD. Some were in the company of the children, while others were heading to their different places of work. Dolly Murigi, Hope TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Dolly, for that report. Moving on, as the August 9th general elections fast approaches, Kenyans have been challenged to elect leaders whose intentions are to empower the current and future generations in terms of land reforms. President Uhuru Kenyatta on Wednesday launched the issuance of title deeds countrywide, where he claimed land cartels are regrouping once again to water down the gains the country has made in land reforms. Dickens Luvanda tells us more.
As he works on finalizing his tenure as the country's fourth president, Uhuru Kenyatta has warned Kenyans against electing corrupt leaders in the upcoming August elections. He says land cartels are regrouping as political candidates to be voted for come election day on August 9th, with the intentions to reverse and take back all the gains made in reforming the land sector by grabbing public and private lands.
Land cartels today are regrouping again to slow the pace of reforms that we are undertaking. And in this context, and given the importance of land resource in the overall national development agenda, I do urge tanyinyi wale mtachagua, msichague watu ambao watatuweka gia ya reverse kuturudisha kule tumetoka. Tunataka wale ambao watasongesha hii agenda na kuhakikisha kwamba kila Mkenya ako na haki yake na mali yake, sio kuturudisha kwa enzi ya wizi na mambo mengine.
President Kenyatta was speaking at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC, in Nairobi on Wednesday, where he launched a countrywide issuance of title deeds to legal landowners in all the 47 counties, and also the National Title Deeds Issuance Program.
We are launching and flagging off the issuance of 1 million out of the 6 million title deeds that are ready across the registries in the various counties. And as we launch this National Title Deeds Issuance Program, today I do direct the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Lands, working together with her counterpart in the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, to draw by this Friday a program assigning various Cabinet Secretaries responsibility to travel to each part of the country together with county commissioners to issue the balance of the ready title deeds. The program, I expect, to be executed expeditiously, and the balance of 1 million titles should be conveyed to their respective holders before sunset on the 8th of July this year.
The program by the Minister of Lands under Cabinet Secretary Farida Karuni will see Kenyans receive 1 million of the 6 million title deeds that need to be issued to various individuals and groups across the country.
We have been able to issue title deeds to group ranches in Laikipia, Nsamburu, Kajiado, West Pokot, and Taita Taveta, an endeavor that has uplifted over 500,000 people. This brings the total number of land registries across the country to a historic high of 67, meaning that in most of these areas, you no longer need to travel to Nairobi to conduct your business.
President Kenyatta asked Kenyans to continue praying that as he leaves office, Kenya gets a successor who will build upon the foundation he has set for the accelerated reforms in the land sector and scale up the issuance of title deeds to Kenyans, communities and other institutions.
Tutaendelea pamoja.
Despite his deputy William Ruto being among those seeking to succeed him as he exits office for retirement, President Kenyatta has openly endorsed his former political nemesis, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, as his successor. Dickens Luvanda, Hope TV News Watch.
Thank you, Dickens, for that report. To politics, Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate William Ruto has said prejudice against persons living with disabilities must stop. Ruto noted that it was wrong to discriminate against such people, adding that they are human beings like others, only differently abled. He said there was an urgent need for persons with disabilities to be empowered, protected, and supported. He was speaking today at the Ngong Racecourse in Nairobi County, where Kenya Kwanza signed a charter with people living with disabilities. Leaders present were Musalia Mudavadi, Alfred Mutua, David Ole Sankok, Isaac Mwaura, Millicent Omanga, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, Benjamin Washiali, among others.
We must avoid the side shows, we must avoid personality issues, and we must stick to the program that will transform our nation. And I want to assure you, as people living with disability, as I do the rest of Kenya, that as we go into this election, we must buy into the plan that will turn around our country.
Under healthcare, I know NHIF has been mentioned, but we would kindly like to ask that NHIF includes therapy services for parents. Therapy is expensive. Your Excellency, the minimum amount of money a parent pays for occupational therapy is 2,500 for 40 minutes with an occupational therapist. 2,500 might be the money that that parent has earned the entire month or the entire week. How will they even give their child therapy if therapy services are not available even at NHIF?
Ukikuwa na hiyo program ya kumenta youth with disability in big positions like CAS, chagua watu wenye wako na ulemavu kama sisi, tuchape kazi vile inafaa. Na tuonyeshe dunia disability is not inability. Yeah. Tunaongea pia kuhusu kwa hii mambo ya technology. Zero rating ifanywe ili technology yote inakuja na iko na any nini ya kusaidia walemavu isitaksiwe ili ikue affordable, accessible, quality.
So that's why Your Excellency, we are requesting, it's good that we have your representative and inclusivity in all those posts. And I can tell you, a time like this, nataka tukuwe na mkutano kama hii. Not here, not in Karen, but in State House.
Still in politics, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga has today taken the Azimio campaigns to Baragoi, Samburu County as he seeks to strengthen his grip in the pastoral community's vote basket. Raila said that he will invest in the education sector to eradicate early marriages and poverty in the region and also ensure their livestock in times of drought. Meanwhile, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya deputy presidential candidate Martha Karua drummed up support for the Raila Martha ticket in Laikipia County. Karua has called on the residents to elect leaders who will bring unity and fight corruption.
Tumetangaza vita dhidi ya ujinga. Tumesema kuanzia Januari mwaka ujao, kila mtoto ambaye amezaliwa kwa taifa letu, hata kama wazazi hawana pesa, atapata nafasi sawa kuanzia nursery kupitia primary, secondary, tertiary mpaka chuo kikuu. Kuanzia Januari hakuna mambo ya karo tena. Hakuna karo tena.
Kwa mikono yako ndio wafugaji wako safe. Sisi tuko safe na mkono ya nani? Ya baba. Ya baba na nani? Na mama, kwa sababu ametupa mama akuwe deputy president wetu Martha Wangare Karua.
Mimi najua serikali ya baba itaimarisha usalama na itaimarisha usalama nchio. Ya pili, mimi najua serikali ya baba itaona kwamba kila jamii ina maji ya kutosha.
Hiyo mambo yote ni kukaa chini. Nchi ni yetu na katiba iko na sheria iko. Unichunge na mimi nifanya nini? Nikuchunge. Hiyo ni ukweli. Na serikali ni kama familia. Haiwezekani wachache walale wameshiba, walio wengi walale njaa. Serikali inakuja na mipango ya kuona utajiri wa nchi iko vile unamilikiwa, ndio kila Mkenya apate haki yake, na sio kusema zote tuwe level moja. Lakini ile ya kukosa hata chakula, kukosa matibabu, kukosa elimu, kukosa security, hiyo yote serikali ya Azimio inakuja kukusimamia.
Away from politics, it is a reprieve for Nairobi gubernatorial candidate Johnson Sakaja after the Commission for University Education withdrew its letter that revoked recognition of his degree in Bachelor of Science in Management, which was conferred to him by Team University in Uganda. This comes after Sakaja filed a contempt of court case against CUE Chairman Professor Chacha Nyaigoti Chacha for alleged violation of court orders. Sakaja was cleared by IEBC to contest for Nairobi's gubernatorial seat on Sunday after IEBC Dispute Resolution Committee said they did not have the legal mandate to verify the authenticity of his degree certificate. Grace Ongoi has the details.
Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja's tide is changing after the Commission for University Education, CUE, withdrew its letter that revoked his degree from Team University in Uganda pending further investigations. The withdrawal of the revocation letter was communicated to the court on an affidavit sworn by CUE Chairman Professor Chacha Nyaigoti in reference to an application filed by Sakaja.
We stand qualified. We have the requisite qualifications to run for the office of Governor of Nairobi. And not just that, we're not just running for the sake of running.
Sakaja had filed a contempt of court case against CUE Chairman Professor Chacha Nyaigoti for alleged violation of court orders. He claimed that the chairman had shown, and I quote, contempt, disregard and disobedience of court orders, end of quote, by addressing the media on Friday, June 17th, hours after the court had temporarily suspended CUE's order to revoke his degree.
From the written submissions to the authorities,
Sakaja saw light at the end of the tunnel on Sunday after he was cleared by IEBC to contest for Nairobi governor in the August 9th polls. The Electoral Body's Dispute Resolution Committee dismissed a petition that challenged Sakaja's clearance to contest on grounds that he did not have a valid university degree, which is a requirement for the job.
The second respondent acted within the law when clearing the first respondent to stand for elections. And these are our final orders. Our final order is that this complaint be and is hereby dismissed with no other costs.
The latest developments come only 2 days after Sakaja failed to honor an invite by CUE to present various documents as confirmation that he attended and graduated from Uganda's Team University. The documents included an application letter for the course he took at the university, his letter of admission, evidence of registration, official transcripts, examination schedules, and a graduation booklet with his name on it, among other requirements.
But we're in it to win it so that we can transform this great capital of ours, of Nairobi City County.
Grace Songoi for Hope TV News Watch.
Thank you, Grace, for that report. We shall be taking a short break, and shortly after the break, we will be beginning our interview segment on the debt burden. See you soon.
Every day, over 15 million members are transforming Africa. Million members empowered to learn, to create, to grow, to harvest, to lead, to dream. Equity. Karibu member.
Welcome back. Now, just before we begin that discussion on Kenya's debt burden, the Senate yesterday approved the National Treasury proposal to raise the debt ceiling to 10 trillion shillings. 27 senators voted in favor of the proposal, while 3 senators declined it, giving the incoming government liberty to borrow up to 10 trillion shillings after raising the amount from 9 trillion shillings. Senators from both sides argued in Parliament, giving different views on the need to increase the debt ceiling. Legislators allied to Deputy President William Ruto castigated Kenya's borrowing, saying it's strenuous to the economy, while those supportive of the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga supported borrowing. The National Assembly, led by its majority leader Amos Kimunya, passed the proposal on June 7th this year. Take a look at what happened in the Senate.
Because we can talk about COVID, we can talk about these challenges, but in our nation, the financial discipline has always been lacking. And therefore, if we extend the debt ceiling, which has been growing by leaps and bounds, we hope that there will be responsibility to make sure that although Kenya may be making some strides in the area of infrastructure, but if we don't manage it well, we will not be able to become a free market economy which can guarantee prosperity to the rest of the country.
From 3rd December 1991, the amendments that were done through Parliament under my watch were basically reform amendments, reform of the Constitution, reform of legislation. It was just basically reform, culminating, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the promulgation of the new Constitution on 27th August 2010, which I was privileged to be the person in the seat of the Attorney General at that time.
Mr. Speaker, we have been in this House since the 31st of August 2017, meaning we've been here for 4 years, 9 months and 21 days, or 57 months and 21 days, or 1,755 days. Mr. Speaker, it has been a journey that is bittersweet. There's been joy and tears. There's been pain, Mr. Speaker, and there's been happiness. But I want to use the words of Max Dupree, who says the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality.
Just before we take that discussion, let's look at one more story. Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome has cast aspersions on Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga's academic qualifications as the debate on degrees continues raging. The Member of Parliament joined fellow Kenya Kwanza Alliance leaders in daring Raila to make public proof of where he schooled for his engineering degree, as well as his classmates. Speaking in Embu Town on Tuesday during a meeting with the coalition women leaders, the legislator also accused Raila of using his running mate Martha Karua as a bait to get votes in Mount Kenya region. Wahome has at the same time called on women in Embu to rally behind Ruto as their interests were better taken care of in Kenya Kwanza.
Tuliambia Honorable Raila ule kitendawili yeye pia atuonyeshe classmate wake wa secondary, kwa sababu amekuwa akisumbua Johnson Sakaja, super senator, super governor wa Nairobi. Si mumeona hivyo? Na nimwambie ya pili, na nyinyi hiyo mfikishe watu wa magazeti. Ni ya pili, niambie Raila asifikirie ate ukisoma lab technician wewe umekuwa engineer. Kuna tofauti ya course ya engineer na kuna tofauti ya course ya lab technician. Na sisemi lab technician ni mbaya, lakini kama umesoma lab technician, wacha kusema umesoma engineering. Na kwa wakati huu amekuwa akiitishwa apeane ile certificate yake ya engineering. Alidanganya hata alisomesa University ya Nairobi, tukakuta hakuna. Sio, ni uongo. Wakina mama ni welefu. Leo hii sisi hatuwezi kuridhika na kiti moja. Sisi tumekuja hapa kwa sababu William Ruto, Kenya Kwanza, wameandikania na William Ruto na wakakuja na chata wakina mama hapo. Tuko na chata na Soipan, Mheshimiwa Soipan, Mheshimiwa Sisiri, na walileta wachache wenu waakilishi tumekuja kujua kama maneno ya chata imefika hapa. Si imefika? Mumesikia kuna maneno ya maji hapo. Afya bora iko hapo ambaye tunasema healthcare, Hasora healthcare. Kuna Hasora fund, si mumesikia hiyo? Nusu ya hiyo Hasora fund 50 billion 25 itakuja kwa sisi wakina mama.
Well, we are still working on that discussion. Let's continue. The National Cohesion and Reconciliation Commission, NCIC, has called on politicians to work with security agencies and other agencies to improve security, preventing incidents that could contribute to insecurity in areas where they are suspected of being at risk. Speaking in Eldoret at the inauguration of the Peace Caravan, NCIC Commissioner Dorcas Kedogo and Uasin Gishu Deputy Commissioner Samson Tongen said there was a need for caution in the face of rumors that some areas might be involved in violence. The Commission has organized a series of campaigns to mobilize different groups on the best ways to promote peace before and after elections. At present, the Commission is holding a meeting with security officials.
Tungependa tudumishe amani kama NCIC wapenda amani. Tunajaribu kwa vyovyote vile tuhakikishe kwamba kila kikundi tumeweza kuzungumza na vikundi mbalimbali, tumeweza kuhamasisha nao pia waende kuhamasisha wengine kwamba hakutakuwa na vurugu. Tafiti ambao tulipata Uasin Gishu ikiwa mojawapo ya high risk ambao wanaweza kuleta vurugu, na hayo hayakutoka kwetu, tulipata kutoka hapa, kutoka kwa wananchi wa hapa ambao walitueleza kwamba kuna sehemu mbalimbali ambazo ziko na shida kidogo, wanashuku. Kwa hivyo tunajaribu tu kuambia kwamba hizo sehemu ambazo walikuwa nafikiria zinaweza kuwa na shida, tunaweza kuzifanya vipi, tunaweza kuzungumza na watu wa hapo ama wakaaji wa hapo kwa njia gani ili wasiweze kuleta vurugu. So sio kwamba tunasema wataendelea kuwa na shida mahali pale, lakini tunasema tu kwamba watu wanashuku ni kwamba panaweza kuwa na jambo fulani. Na ni vizuri, unajua, wakati mwingine because tukiacha tu kusema kwamba kila kitu kiko sawa, tusiweze kuhamasisha, tusiendelee kuzungumza nao, unaweza kujipata mwingine akaja shetani akapitia na akaharibu mahali hapo. Kwa hivyo ni jambo tu la kuweza kuambia kwamba tafadhalini, ndio hata kama mnafikiria kutakuwa na shida, hakutakuwa na shida kwa sababu tumewahamasisha, tumewaambia umuhimu wa kudumisha amani, na tujaribu kila mmoja ajaribu kuhakikisha sehemu yake iko na amani wakati wa campaigns na pia hata wakati wa uchaguzi na baada ya uchaguzi.
Now, a large number of young people who have been exposed to cocaine in Dao Island, Lamu East constituency have called on the government to set up rehabilitation centers and provision of methadone that will make them avoid the use of drugs. They say they are ready to give up drugs and start a new life. Led by Omar Aweso, the youths have said they have not been able to quit drugs due to the challenge of lack of methadone, which they have been seeking for a very long time now. They have pointed out that unemployment is the source of their involvement in drug use, urging their leaders, in partnership with the government to avail a remedy for them.
Tumeathirika kwa maraibu kwa sababu ni stress. Tukiangalia hakuna kazi, life ngumu, uchumi wa Kenya umepanda. Tunavuta unga vijana, unga umetuathiri. Hapa hakuna methadone. Average ya vijana 40 ambao tayari sahihi wameathirika.
Tumeathirika kwa dawa. Tunaomba hii dawa methadone iweko hapa, sisi tupate kufaidika. Tuangalie makazi, tuangalie maisha, tuangalie mabibi.
Sisi tupate kazi, tuachane na hii vitu. Kwa sababu ukimkamata huyu mwingine, ukimkamata huyu mwingine tayari. Hiyo sio suluhisho. Pate shilingi 200-300 niweke biashara yangu, nijue asubuhi kinuka naenda na biashara yangu vizuri.
Next week on Turning Point.
A saint is simply any sinner saved by grace. When the word saint is used in the New Testament, it is never in reference to a condition. It's always in reference to a position of the person. If you have accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you are a saint. I'm here by the grace of God. We know it's not us. All we have to do is a little self-examination. We don't deserve to be in heaven. We're going to be in heaven by the grace of God. Amen? He may be working in you. You may think what you're doing is insignificant. But let me say it again. Little is much if God is in it. The gospel of Jesus Christ changed me. It'll change you. If you want to be changed from the inside out with something that will never, ever forsake you, you need to know Jesus Christ.
That's next week on Turning Point. Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Only God can turn a mess into a message.
I have a boy on a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm still preaching on the pulpit.
Amen.
Niliona mguu ya nyuma inakuja tu kunikanyaga, imenilenga tu kwa tumbo. Nikaitana tu Jesus.
I got tired of working with the x-ray papers, and one day I just woke up and decided to burn them.
A test into a testimony.
The whole community didn't want to hear that anybody is born again. Excommunicated straight.
Bila Yesu hakuna njia.
Join Sharon Naitore Wangenye on Testify.
Katika hiyo harakati hiyo spirit kakemewa, mimi nimeona Yesu Kristo namna hii. Kwa msalaba. Opa. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Every Thursday at 8 p.m. for a moment to grow your faith some more.
Yesu ndiye njia. Juu ya mwamba huu nitalijenga kanisa langu.
Hapa leo hii tuko na msikiti wa Mariamu, msikiti wa Yesu.
Kumbe kuna msikiti wa Yesu.
Ukiandika msikiti wa Yesu Kristo, mwana wa Mariam, weka injili ndani, hubiria watu injili.
Kitabu ya Yohana inaandikwa 110 AD na Ufunuo Yohana 248 AD.
Na Qur'ani.
Mimi nakueleza habari ya Yesu kwanza, ufahamu hiyo kwanza.
Ungana na walimu wa neno wanapochambua masuala tata katika Biblia, wakiyalinganisha na vitabu vingine vya kidini.
Qur'an imekuja mwaka 600 baada ya Injili.
Yesu ndiye njia.
Biblia inasema pepo la nini? La uaguzi. Pepo la uaguzi maana yake inaweza ikajua wewe nyumbani kwako umetoka saa ngapi. Unajua mapepo yanajua hivi. Kwamba leo ulikula chakula gani.
Kama Bwana Yesu alitumwa kwa wana wa Israeli peke yao, wengine wetu ambao tunamwamini, basi sehemu yetu iko wapi?
Yesu ndiye njia. Kila Jumamosi saa 2 hadi saa 4 ya usiku kwenye runinga uipendayo ya Hope TV.
Next week on Turning Point.
A saint is simply any sinner saved by grace. When the word saint is used in the New Testament, it is never in reference to a condition. It's always in reference to a position of the person. If you have accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you are a saint. I'm here by the grace of God. We know it's not us. All we have to do is a little self-examination. We don't deserve to be in heaven. We're going to be in heaven by the grace of God. Amen? He may be working in you. You may think what you're doing is insignificant. But let me say it again. Little is much if God is in it. The gospel of Jesus Christ changed me. It'll change you. If you want to be changed from the inside out with something that will never, ever forsake you, you need to know Jesus Christ.
That's next week on Turning Point. Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at business. The Kenyan government has today signed a memorandum of understanding with the British Chamber of Commerce Kenya, which is aimed at promoting Kenya's business climate reforms agenda. Speaking during the signing of the MOU at the British High Commissioner's residence in Nairobi, the United Kingdom's High Commissioner to Kenya, Jane Marriott, said that improving business integrity underpins both the UK-Kenya strategic partnership and the building of a prosperous, safer and healthier Kenya. The MOU follows a public-private dialogue on integrity hosted by BCCK earlier this month. As Kennedy Kimani now reports, the United Kingdom is one of Kenya's largest and most important foreign investors, with an estimated 150 British enterprises currently in the country, with over 250,000 Kenyans directly employed by British organizations.
Kenya has today inked a pact to the British Chamber of Commerce to enhance business climate, with the agreement paving way for implementing initiatives to strengthen business integrity. The MOU is set to address some of the findings from the recent BCCK Business Integrity Market Survey, which measures the impact of corruption in the private sector.
Now, the UK continues to work in partnership with Kenya and the government of Kenya to tackle corruption and remove barriers of doing good business and good trade between our countries and the rest of the world. The UK's relationship with Kenya is a strategic one based on deep respect, partnership and mutual interest, and that's why we're supporting this effort today.
Some of the recommendations from the private sector include accelerating the digitization of government service delivery, as well as including more integrity content and programming in industry standards and professional development.
Within this context, efforts have been put in place within the efforts to date, which have resulted in a collaboration by way of ensuring that within the context of business reforms and the promotion of greater levels of productivity, innovation and efficiency, that we've addressed policy issues, legislation issues, the regulatory issues, the standards issues.
The signing of this MOU is the culmination of a fruitful and mutually beneficial relationship that the Chamber continues to enjoy with DBRT. This was established in 2018 with a mandate to making Kenya more attractive to local and international investment.
UK is one of Kenya's largest and most important foreign investors, with an estimated 150 British enterprises currently in the country, with over 250,000 Kenyans directly employed by the British organizations. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kennedy, for that report. Now, Google Arts and Culture has partnered with Karakana, a Kenyan social enterprise and non-profit, to launch an online exhibition for cross-stitch and traditional craft. Karakana empowers marginalized women from various backgrounds to learn the intricate art of cross-stitch and turn it into a source of livelihood. Cross-stitching is very intricate and is one of the oldest forms of embroidery. It uses a number of cords on a grid of squares marked on a piece of cloth to guide on the thread color and sewing direction, resulting in a pattern of threading that reveals an embedded picture or other artistic representation that would otherwise not be visible to the naked eye. Karakana is among several affiliates of the Mama Foundation, funded and led by Her Excellency Rachel Ruto, who holds the office of spouse to the Deputy President and who is an ardent advocate for women's economic empowerment.
Every Friday at 11 a.m. on Hope Junction. We play the latest jams.
You're changing my altitude. My heart is yours. For you alone, for you alone.
Plus your requests. If your favorite song tells your story better, let the whole world hear it.
What's the 9,000 doing? I can't believe my eyes! Team Quantum.
Yes! I knew they could do it! But how? Get ready for a super surprise this coming Sunday with all new super episodes.
Who will join me?
They're delivering bread and meat to Elijah.
All new super adventures, all new super season.
I'm Chris. I'm Joy, and this is Gizmo. You should come with me.
Let's have fun while learning from Chris, Joy, and Gizmo.
What are you doing?
All new Superbook Season 4 exclusive to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Join John Cousin every weekday as he takes us on a journey through the Bible.
Whoever shall seek to save his life, if you go back to living for yourself, you're going to lose it. But whoever shall lose his life, give up his life for my sake, he shall preserve it.
Enjoy interesting, knowledge-packed, yet simple teachings through his humor and in-depth understanding of God's Word.
The last people that tried to put God in a box, literally, he rose again. He wouldn't stay in their compartment. If God was small enough for me to figure out, he wouldn't be big enough for me to worship.
Tune in to Hope TV for John Cousin every 10 p.m., 4 a.m., and 10 a.m. weekdays on Hope TV, where you look and live.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at international news. Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera on Tuesday relieved his Vice President Salus Chilima of all delegated powers after the latter was named in a massive corruption scandal in government contracts already implicating several senior officials. The announcement follows a new report by the Anti-Corruption Bureau, which is investigating British-Malawian businessman Zuneth Sattar on suspicion of corruption, fraud, and money laundering. Several ministers and former ministers have already been arrested in connection with the case. The Malawian president also suspended his chief of staff and the country's police chief.
Corruption comes in many forms, and the opportunities to succumb to it in this country abound. But you must resist it at every turn. Because if you do not follow the law will follow you. And if you think that I will use my office to save you from facing a law you have broken, then you are gravely mistaken. You are here to serve, not to rule or boast. Occupying high office is not a license to act high and mighty. The people of Malawi are your bosses, not your subjects.
Now, in Afghanistan, disaster management officials now say the death toll from an earthquake of magnitude 6.1 on Wednesday has hit 1,000, with more than 600 injured as information trickles in from remote mountain villages. Houses were reduced to rubble and bodies swathed in blankets lay on the ground, as photographs on Afghan media showed. Helicopters were deployed in the rescue effort to reach the injured and fly in medical supplies and food. The humanitarian disaster comes at a difficult time for the Taliban-ruled country, currently in the throes of a hunger and economic crisis. Most of the deaths were in Paktika province in the districts of Gyan, Nika, Bamal and Zirok, according to the State Ministry for Disaster Management. Well, it's now time for that much-awaited discussion. Apologies for that delay. We hope that the technical element is sorted. Well, joining us via StreamYard is Reginald Katzutu, who is the CEO of Amana Capital, to discuss Kenya's debt burden. Welcome, Reginald. I hope you can hear me now.
I can hear you, Tess.
Great. Thank you so much for making time and being patient. Let's dig in. Now, the debt ceiling has been raised, giving the government an enhanced headroom to borrow up to 10 trillion Kenya shillings. Is this kind of debt ceiling sustainable given the country's economic status presently?
Well, the debt ceiling is really neither here or there. The debt ceiling is literally a number. They can either make it a percentage, they can make it 10 trillion, 11 trillion, 12 trillion, but it doesn't really answer the problem that the country is in terms of high indebtedness and how we got there. And the ceiling really will not actually stop the exchequer from borrowing. So I think there is a lot of conversation on the debt ceiling, which honestly speaking, it's neither a policy tool, neither is it an instrument that can actually check government from borrowing, but it's a good benchmark to put there to give Parliament some work to do.
So are you implying that the government can go beyond the stipulated debt ceiling with no consequences at the moment?
Yes, because by the time the government goes to borrow, they normally borrow what has been budgeted for. Yeah. So once the budget has been approved, Treasury does not have to go back to Parliament to borrow. So if Parliament approves, like in this case, this year's budget 2022 to 2023 June has a deficit of 842 billion. That they have shown how they plan on borrowing it externally and internally to cover that deficit, so to speak. So once the budget has been approved by Parliament, by Senate, taken to the President and signed into law, Treasury does not have to go back to Parliament to borrow. So they will still borrow because then they have permission to borrow. So the truth of the matter is that instead of looking at the debt ceiling, we should be more worried about the budget deficit, because that's where borrowing, that's what leads to borrowing. When we spend more than we collect in tax revenue or any other revenue that the government gets into place. So the cap or the ceiling that we should actually be looking at is the budget deficit and not the debt ceiling, because you cannot approve a budget deficit then come and deny a debt ceiling, because then how do you expect the deficit to be funded? Because in essence, a deficit is the revenues are not enough, so I have to borrow to cover the expenditure. So that's where the real crux of the matter actually is. Once they approve the deficit, they cannot deny the borrowing.
Then what would you say is the significance of Senate and Parliament passing this bill and increasing the ceiling? Why would they do that if it has no significance or impact?
It is just a legal hurdle where if someone breaks the ceiling, if Treasury breaks the ceiling, Parliament can say you borrowed without authority, but they cannot say that because they approved the deficit and the borrowing plan. So it's literally just, I don't even know why it is there. They should just actually remove it. It is of no consequence to whether Treasury will borrow or not borrow.
So what is your take on the budget deficit? Do you think that the government was overambitious in putting up such a budget?
It has been the trend since the Jubilee government came into power. On average, around we consume, we have a deficit between revenue and expenditure of around 38 to 40% every year since 2018. So it has been the trend that every budget has that deficit that continues to grow. But what has made this deficit bigger is because of the borrowing that happened between 2013 and 2017, which never went to real productivity, and most of it was stolen. You've realized now the impact on revenue is that for every 100 shillings that we collect, 70% of it has to go to payment of debt. So if you look at the debt repayment this year, 2022-2023, it's around 1 trillion there, 1.2 trillion. So if you look at the deficit is literally us going to repay debt. So in essence, I don't think there's anything much Treasury could have done because our revenue is actually enough to cater for salaries and every other expenditure that we have, including the disbursement to counties. But because of the debt situation we are in, where we have to repay 1.2 trillion of debt annually, which accounts literally for the deficit. So I don't think Treasury had any option but to literally just budget a deficit. So the rain started beating us when we started having annually overspending our revenue by 38 to 40% since 2018 is now coming to bite us.
Well, the Jubilee government would boast of infrastructure in various developments at the national level and even at the county level that they will justify that the debts have actually improved Kenya. What's your take on that?
Okay, if we start with let's start with 2013 to 2017. They borrowed around close to 3 trillion, 4 trillion in that period. And the major infrastructure project that we have in that first term, to be honest, is only the SGR, which you can put at 300, 600 billion if you want to be generous. The question then is what happened to the other 3.4 trillion shillings? Where can they account for it in terms of even the infrastructure that they're talking about? Number two, most of this infrastructure has been done at inflated costs, or what we call budgeted corruption. Look for a big project, inflate the cost. The cost of doing a kilometer of road in Kenya, I think, is the highest in the region compared to other regions. Not because there is any special thing about doing roads in Kenya, but is that because we budget corruption in the budget. So most projects are overinflated. For example, the latest expressway, when it started and when it finished, I think the cost had doubled to close to 80-something billion for that stretch of road alone. But the initial cost was close to 50%, 60% of what the final cost was. So that's where our problem comes in. Yes, you have borrowed for infrastructure, but the amount actually going to the infrastructure is a fraction of what has been borrowed. The rest actually is being stolen. And some of this infrastructure is actually not generating income or is not going into areas which is increasing productivity or efficiency, where we will see that income will increase commensurate to the investment that has been done, even if you give 3, 4, or 5 years space. So we have unproductive debt going to projects which, one, are funded in US dollars but generate Kenya shilling revenue. It's just a whole mess. So I don't think they have really an excuse. They just misused borrowed funds.
So what do you think the country or the government can do to be able to relieve Kenya of this debt burden instead of adding onto it?
Well, whichever government is going to come into power in August it's actually their first headache, because they will have no money to do anything until they sort out the debt burden. One way is to go ask for forgiveness from the people that have lent to us. We literally just ask for forgiveness. Can you write off this debt? We are sorry. We misused the money. We don't have the money to repay. Or if they refuse, try and lengthen the tenure. So if it's a 7-year, try to lengthen it to 14, 15. Try to get a reduction on the interest you are paying, so that you reduce the component that you are paying annually. Therefore, you reduce the percentage of revenue that debt is consuming. Yeah, and the last and final option they have, which is the toughest one, is to just default and say, guys, we can't pay and we won't pay. We start on a clean slate. Many other countries have done that before. Argentina has done it several times. But those are the only options that we actually have in terms of fixing the current situation that we have. Going forward, then an eye has to be kept on the budget deficit. If it continues growing, then we will never get out of this debt cycle that we are in. But we need to start reaching a point where we at least have close to a balanced budget, or if it is a deficit, it's a deficit that is financed at reasonable costs, at reasonable tenures, and the money is going into places where we can say, if we put money here, we are going to generate this amount of income, or in terms of taxes, or we're going to save this amount of whatever in terms of cost. But we can't just borrow and hide behind that infrastructure takes time to see the benefit. Yet the debt that has been borrowed does not commensurate with the period where the infrastructure will start giving return. So if your infrastructure is going to give a return in 20 years and your debt is repaid in 5 years, then that is a serious mismatch. And that's something that the new government, whichever government that is going to come, has to seriously look at.
Okay, now since we are heading to general elections and government is definitely going to change in some way, what are some of the ways the government can generate money without borrowing?
The government is going to change, not in some way. It is going to change. We're going to have a new president, either way. But how do we generate? How does the government generate money? Government only has two options of generating money. It's either borrowing or taxation. But if they want to generate more taxes, is then grow the economy. Not just grow GDP numbers like what Jubilee have been doing, but grow people's incomes. Because when people have income, you grow, the quality of growth becomes good enough to generate additional revenue. Because, for example, if Safaricom continues to do very well, they pay more taxes. If Coca-Cola continues doing well, they pay more taxes. If more people get employed, you get more PAYE from the people. That is the best way the government can actually make any revenue. The other way is the government can literally just cut costs, unnecessary projects, not to try and implement their whole manifestos in 5 years. Some of the things that they want to do are things that cannot be done in 5 years. They have to be accepted nationally, and there are projects that continue for beyond 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, and the like. But that has been a serious problem that we've had in the country, where a president wants to achieve everything in 4 years, 5 years, because the new person who's going to come will come with their own bag of goodies. So if the new government can actually create a blueprint that the country can follow, no matter who is president, then you start seeing waste going away, projects started and not finished, but we end up having one direction going forward as a country. That's the only way we can manage this situation, generate revenue, save on costs, and slowly but surely start reducing our budget deficit to a very manageable level.
Well, that makes sense. Last but not least, do you think the current high cost of living in the country is related to our debt situation? And what would you say the government needs to do to be able to bring down the high cost of living?
Well, the high cost of living, Tess, is a factor of many things. As much as people don't want to accept it, Kenya is an open economy, so we are affected by what happens globally. We import all our oil and our fuel. Note in 2021, around January, February, there, end of 2020, fuel was below $20 a barrel. Fuel now is above $100 a barrel. There's nothing the government can do in the short term They should have done something when it was 20, but they couldn't do because we don't have enough storage capacity to store fuel other than the amount of fuel that we need for 1 month. So there's a lot of short-termism which has bedeviled the country. And if we can start getting more long-term planning, especially on things that affect us externally, so we import most of our wheat, unfortunately, from Russia and Ukraine. So global wheat prices have gone up. Most of the fertilizer in the world comes from Ukraine and Russia. So the price of fertilizer has gone up globally, and there's nothing the government can literally do about that. So to blame the current high cost of living on debt alone will be stretching it. It has played a role because then it has reduced the fiscal headroom the government could have had maybe to try and cushion Kenyans from the high cost of living, but they would not have been in a place to be able to prevent the high cost of living, not because of a failure of their own now, but because of systematic failures starting from independence to now, where we have not been able, one, to secure ourselves to be food secure, energy efficient, and be able to survive. Like for now, we are facing a drought. We've been facing droughts since Independence Day, and no one has taken effort to actually try and increase the acreage under irrigation. So again, that has nothing to do with debt. It's just literally poor leadership, poor planning, and one day the chickens have to come to roost, and this year they are really coming to roost in a hard way.
Thank you so much, Reginald Kadzutu, CEO of Amana Capital, for your great insights on Kenya's debt burden. Definitely a conversation that we can continue on. Let's pause there for now. Thank you so much, Reginald.
You're welcome.
Now let's move on to sports. I beg your pardon, where Todd Boehly has been confirmed as the new Chelsea chairman amidst a series of new appointments to the club's board. A consortium led by American investor Boehly completed the takeover of the Blues last month. Boehly takes up the role of chairman after it was announced Bruce Buck will step down after 19 years. Chelsea also confirmed the departure of the director Marina Granovsky, with Boehly taking over the role until a permanent replacement is appointed. And Serena Williams made a winning comeback after a year on the sidelines as the American legend teamed with Ons Jabeur to beat Sarah Sorribes Tormo and Mari Bokaval 2-6, 6-3, and 13-11 in the Eastbourne International doubles on Tuesday. Williams, a 23-time Grand Slam singles champion, was back in action to the first time since she made a tearful exit from Wimbledon last year. The 40-year-old suffering a leg injury during her Wimbledon first round match against Alexandra Sasnovic and has not been seen on court since. Williams is one Grand Slam crown away from equaling Australian Margaret Court's record of 24 single titles as the majors. Well, that's all we had for you on Newswatch tonight. On behalf of the whole team that has made this bulletin a success, thank you for watching. I'm Tess Njenga, and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Murithi. God willing, see you tomorrow, same place, same time. Have a good night, and God bless you.